Let's take you overseas because we've got some developments there on multiple fronts tonight, including word that the bodies of 4 Israeli hostages have just been handed over to the Red Cross in the last couple of minutes, as the future of the fragile ceasefire deal in that region faces a key deadline Saturday. You're looking now at a live shot of the other piece of this, which is the release of Palestinian prisoners. Again, a live shot here coming into us from the region as we speak. A lot of questions tonight, though, on when phase 2 of this ceasefire could actually begin and what the long-term future of Gaza would actually look like if and when this war ends. And the backdrop to that, new reaction in Gaza to what President Trump apparently wants the future of Gaza to look like in a controversial AI-generated video shared by the president. I want to show it to you here in a second. Beaches, belly dancers. We'll pull up that video. This hotel, Trump Gaza, you see it. It shows the destruction, and then it shows what some vision, apparently AI-generated, of what the president himself has described as the so-called Riviera of the Middle East. Watch. Let's go to Matt Bradley, who's with us tonight now from the region. Let's start with some of those live images and some of the developments that we've learned about in just the last hour or so, including that apparently the Red Cross is carrying the bodies of these Israeli hostages now to a key checkpoint. Matt Bradley, if you can hear me.
Oh, yeah, Hallie. So, excuse me. Yes. So it looks as though this is the culmination of, if you're hearing me now, Hallie.
Yes.
Okay, yes, it looks like this is the culmination, excuse me, Hallie, of what was an hours-long effort to try to save this deal. Now, if you remember, this time last night, it looked as though this final stages of this transfer were really in doubt, even earlier this morning. And then we heard that Hamas had said that they would agree to release them tomorrow. That was moved up to today, where now we've seen those 4 bodies now in Israeli custody, having just crossed over the Kerem Shalom crossing. And now we're seeing some of those hundreds, about more than 600 Palestinian prisoners now being released into the West Bank to their families. Now, some of those prisoners are going to be sent abroad. Some of those are going to be going to the Gaza Strip. So, you know, this exchange really marks the end of the first phase of that deal. But as you mentioned, that deal was supposed to end on March 1st, on Saturday. And now the question is whether or not they're going to be going into phase 2. So far, we've seen no indication, at least no public indication, that either side has really been negotiating to move to phase 2, which would basically see a more permanent end to the hostilities in the Gaza Strip and the full final withdrawal of Israeli troops from the Gaza Strip, at least for now. So, you know, we haven't actually seen that happening. That would be a big game changer. Middle East envoy from the Trump administration, Steve Witkoff, is headed to the Middle East. He was supposed to be there here in Israel today. That got delayed until the weekend. But it looks as though he's going to be trying to push all the parties to get to that phase 2, which again would see more of a real resolution of this horrific conflict that's been going on now for 16 months. But still, it looks as though the first phase, what we're seeing right now on our screens, has actually been completed.
Yeah. Of course, the question looming over all of this, one of them at least, Matt, is what happens if and when this war ends? What happens to Gaza, which has been largely decimated in this war? The president has described his vision, making a lot of headlines when he described this idea of it becoming kind of the Riviera of the Middle East, redeveloping it, for example. There's been a lot of reaction coming in, I know, from teams in Gaza, from people, Palestinians, who are frankly concerned about this. And you're seeing some of the AI-generated images here. Talk us through that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to talk about this, Hallie, because it's unclear how much people are taking this seriously, how much Trump himself is taking this seriously. We heard from Secretary of State Marco Rubio saying that this is all just trying to push Arab parties and groups together to try to come up with an alternative solution in order to avoid President Trump's plan, though President Trump has come out afterwards and said he still thinks that his plan to own Gaza Strip and make it into sort of a Riviera type of place, looking more like Las Vegas or Miami than the Gaza Strip, that still is, according to him, the best possible plan. We've already seen Gulf Arab leaders huddling together, trying to come up with an alternative plan. They're going to be huddling together again in early March to come up with an alternative plan. But this is another stumbling block I was mentioning just a moment ago about going from phase 1 to phase 2 of this sort of peace treaty between Hamas and Israel. The question of governance of the Gaza Strip, who will be in charge, That is one of the major stumbling blocks and one of the reasons why we haven't actually seen the parties moving into phase two. Hallie.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.